This is a really exciting subject. Pat commented on one of my YouTube videos, if I'm smart enough, I said I would do like 0 edits, but I'll put it up here, what he said about the Conan sword. I've known Pat for a few years, we've become friends. Pat is a great business mind. And a couple of years ago, I actually went on to Pat's I don't know, he interviewed me. I don't know if it's classed as a podcast, just because he thought it'd be great for us to share ideas. And I went into his Facebook group and we were talking about some of the things that we have seen have held people back, from doing great things with their business and their life. And the biggest thing that I shared was one of the core factors, one of the core pieces that we coach people through, encourage them through, and get them past, which is themselves. And it's all to do with your identity, your sense of identity, who you believe you are, who you act in alignment with, and then the breaking of that if you want to move forwards, if you want to evolve, whether that's making more money, whether that's trying something completely new with your life, whether that's building something fresh, into your business, whatever it is. We have to get rid of the old before we can spend time and energy evolving into the new, or at least solidifying what that looks like. So I don't want this to be too high level. I'll try and get into the sort of the meat and gravy. Is that what you say? Meat and potatoes? There's another little Richism. Correct me in the comments. All right. Remember, I don't script these things. I've not even made any notes. I've got nothing here in front of me. And I literally just messaged Pat to say, I messaged him on Facebook. What did I say to him? Thanks for the Conan sword bump. Recording it now. Because this is an exciting subject. And something really powerful, I think. The Conan sword thing is just my perception and what I do for myself. And then I just explain that to people, and then they can take something away from it themselves. So like all my videos that, I've been recording for the channel, none of this is, I know it all and you should do exactly as I say. It's just, here's what I've been trying for a long time and what I've been testing, and here's the results that I've gotten from it. Give it a go. If you want, come and let me know how you get on with it. And that's a big portion of mentoring and coaching. And then in the minutiae of marketing, as an example, marketing is a lot of testing. It's a lot of trial by error and then figuring out what works or what doesn't work. And a lot of that is similar when it comes to developing the humans inside of a business as well. So just know that what I'm going to be talking about in this whole Conan sword thing in my extremely animated way is my thing. But you can take something away from it if it makes sense for you. So, why Conan? Well, Conan, I'm a long-time Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. My favourite film of all time is actually Commando. Shoot me down, tie me up by my feet. I know it's not winning awards for acting, cinematic maneuvers, or anything, sexy like that. It was just one of those movies that, I saw when I was really young. I just became highly influenced by, and just fell in love with it. I just fell in love with the idea of this guy that has his daughter snatched away from him, and he just spends every ounce of his focus, energy, and the things that he's trained on to get her back. I just love the idea of that. And there's tons and tons of films out there, that focus on the same thing. Conan is another film, that I really love. And I like the idea of this, guy that doesn't speak a great deal, but he takes action. He goes and swings a sword around and, conquers the day. Now, how this relates to, identity work is I've always imagined, as I've been, now this is when I was in the military, when I've, in relationship development, whether it's inside the business and we're pushing to, into new services, products, whatever it might be, I've always had this sense that there was something holding me back. There was something, I don't know whether it's pulling at my ear, grabbing on my shoulders, and just not wanting me to progress. And the only thing I could ever get it down to, when I would sit with the feelings and then what the feelings had turned into in terms of practical and logical actions in reality, if you like, was that there was this old version of me that didn't want me to progress. It didn't want me to grow. It didn't want me to have more. Almost like the old version of me only had a certain amount of capacity for love, for success, for attention, whatever it might be, and we couldn't fill up the cup for this previous identity more than this. And so every time I would try to spend more time in a place of positive thinking or experience more love through the day or, invite more money or make more money in the business or my personal life, there would be this spillover effect of where the old identity that spent more time curating my life would go, you've reached capacity, thanks, psh, and it tips some of it out. And Gay Hendricks, one of my favourite authors, and he's done a lot of really tactile coaching with really high-level people over the years. Gay Hendricks. Hendricks like the drink. Gay, G-A-Y, Hendricks, not like the guitar player Hendrix with an X. Hendricks, C-K-S. Him and his wife over the years developed this idea. He calls it the big leap. And the big leap is based on a principle that you cannot turn the temperature up on your life because there's this old version of you that trips the thermostat, and when you hit this, like people call it a glass ceiling, right? You hit this upper limit, and then your old self does lots of weird behaviors to pull you back down to behaving in alignment with how you spent the majority of your time in your life, and this cup would spill over. No, can't handle more love, so I'm going to do something to make sure that, the person that you've been trying to build a deeper relationship with is pushed away. We'll tip that fucking cup out. Hopefully this is making sense. You're either following along or not at this point, and either is fine. You just need to ask questions in the comments if I'm not making this super clear. So, for me, I had always had this feeling that there was this dark shadow. And I've built a better relationship with it, over the years, but it's like, why the hell can't I push past these certain points in my life? Why, when I get to a certain point, do I just hit that glass ceiling and then just, disappear out of my own mind for weeks or months at a time? And then there's a lot talked about in terms of roller coaster income, up and down moods and things like this in the entrepreneurial world. And I think this happens not just in the entrepreneurial world, but it happens, everywhere. And I got to the point of where I thought, this dark character or this old sense of self is clinging on. It's clinging on for dear life. It's clinging on. It's like, whoa, you're trying to be better. You're trying to experience more love. You're trying to experience more money, growth, a calmer sense of being, whatever the goal was. You ain't having it. For me, I would experience these bouts of tiredness, almost like this character was just switching me off. And I would be bedridden. like for a few days at a time. And I would go from one day, like having, standard rich energy, to the next day, after this sort of upper limit or this ceiling had been hit, the next day, and for the next 2 or 3 days, I'd be in bed. Because it didn't want me to progress. It was slipping. The slipping of itself was disappearing. So it had to do something to cling on to its purpose and its reasoning and its why for being there. So in my own way, I started thinking about, well, I'm really grateful for this character, for this old version of self, because it's brought me to this point. But I'm not going to evolve past this point if I don't kill it. If I don't kill off this identity, if I don't shed the skin and remove it, then the same thing's just going to keep happening. I'm going to want to press forwards and it's going to keep pulling me back. And we're going to have this backwards and forwards tussling relationship. And this is where like the Conan sword sort of cutting off the head, visual came about for me personally. So what I would envisage if I was strongly starting to realize that how I was developing and moving forwards, like through the passage of time, through the passage of personal growth, and whether it's age, stage of life, doesn't matter. This is what I was doing. I would get the realization and go, oh, okay, that's what's happening right now. Okay. Hey, listen. I really love and respect the fact that you've gotten us this far. I really do. From the bottom of my heart, I couldn't thank you more than I am right now. Look at what we've created. Look at the love around us. Look at, the success that we bring to other people. Look at the growth that, our family has experienced. It's amazing. But I've noticed a couple of times now, we're trying to push forward past this point and you're not prepared to let me go. So it's time for you to die. It's time for me to cut your head off. And I would ceremoniously, I'm going to sound absolutely insane, ceremoniously imagine I was wielding this huge, powerful sword. And nothing could get in its way. And I would have this conversation with this old self, and I would just take his head off. And then as the body fell to the floor, I would have a foot on top of the body, quite victoriously. And again, I would speak very respectfully and lovingly, towards this old version of self. Again, say similar things. Thank you. Thank you for getting us to this point. But you and yourself knew that both of us couldn't exist at the same time. I couldn't have you pulling the energy away from this new version of self I'm creating. So you had to go. But I thank you for your service. But now all energy will be transferred to this new version of self. And away we go. So that's where the Conan sword came from. Technically it's Rich's sword. It's my sword. But, I use visuals and reference points, from being a young man and having an Arnold Schwarzenegger fascination, to use that as a personal tool at my own will and for my doing. And the amount of times, I would say since 2017, and what year we're 2025, so for over 8 years, I've shared this crazy idea, this thing that I've done. Sometimes a couple of times a year, Sometimes not even once, within a year, because it's not necessarily needed, right? And every single time, everyone's always had then their own interpretation of what they can do with that. And my hope is that maybe you can use it. It doesn't have to be a sword. It can be, I've had someone genuinely say, I'm just going to suffocate him or her. Just going to suffocate him, but just do it in the most calm and peaceful fashion. I mean, I don't know, what version of psychotic, you want to visit, with yourself to kill off an old identity, but I would encourage you to look at it through the most simplistic, and if you can gamify it, make it this fun game of where there's, like a snake shedding its skin, like we get rid of the old and that sort of gets burnt up into the ether, and the universe takes that energy, and then the new energy gets put into the new, whatever it looks like for you. My encouragement is give it a go. Give it a go. Get rid of the old, step into the new. If you need to cut its head off, cut its head off. Be loving and respectful towards it, because it got you to this point of realization that you're just experiencing ups and downs, and every time you try and push forwards, you behave in such a way that sabotages all of the things that are good that you've created. That's not healthy. I think it's much healthier to get rid of the old and step into the new permanently, solidify that home, make the next new steps in evolution, and then if you need more growth, then guess what? We just need to develop a new version of you, a new version of self. That's all it is. That's the fun game. There's no end destination. That's the other realization for me. There's no end destination. It is fun to just keep traveling through life and making realizations about yourself, the world around you, the people that you live with, love, help, encourage, whatever it is. But if you stay the same, what happens? My realization, if I stay the same, then the things that I want to change, and I'm a husband, a father, a coach, a mentor. People look up to me and look into me for answers and solutions. If I stay the same, it's no good for anybody, but most importantly, it's no good for me and for the things that I want out of life. Maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you need a sword. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you soon.